Seattle House Mafia.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Industry Interviews with Seattle House Mafia. I'm Phil, your host, and today he is the owner of Seattle's longest-running house music label for the last 25 years, Viva Recordings. He threw numerous infamous parties in the 90s, many of which I attended, 90s and beyond, really, at venues like Power Plant, NAF Studios, ETG, and Trinity. Currently, he's a staple. Both him and his parties are a staple at one of my favorite spots in Seattle, the Monkey Loft, and also puts on an annual event at ADE in Amsterdam, which I want to learn a little bit more about. He also hosts a weekly radio show on KBFG 107.3 called Different Channels every Tuesday at 8 p.m. So welcome.
Thank you.
Jon Lemmon to the studio. How are you, man?
Awesome, man. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Dude, I'm just stoked we finally got this. Like it seemed like it was a long time coming. I actually think I reached out to you like a year ago when I was sort of making the idea, formulating the idea. And
it's been a minute. It's been a pleasure to watch it like come together and grow. It's been awesome.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And again, thanks for coming in. You just got back from Vegas, right? You guys did a party in Vegas. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this year was our 25th anniversary for the label. And obviously we wanted to do something a little different, a little outside the box and a little special. And we'd actually been, so I have two partners in the label, for those that don't know, Peter Evans and Chad Nero. And before the pandemic, we had been looking at the idea of a much bigger thing down in Vegas that I won't jinx for future possibilities. I'll just leave it at that. But we were going to do something, and we were actually, we took trips down there, and we were researching a place to do some kind of a big party down there. Everything obviously just sort of backed up a few steps with the pandemic, so kind of starting at a different point afterwards. But a bunch of stuff just fell into place with a friend of mine down there, this guy Edgar Reyes, who runs this, a very similar company called Soul Kitchen in Vegas, and they were celebrating 20 years this year. So we kind of decided to team up, and it was magic. It was awesome. We ended up securing a venue for the Saturday night called The Usual Place, which is a newer venue. This guy Carlos Sanchez is the owner of it, and he's a house DJ, a deep house guy as well, and he's been around forever. And he and his old partners used to bring me down for gigs back in the day. So that just kind of fell into place to do a party there, and then that was for Saturday night, and then a Sunday party came together at this place called 18 Bin, which was super fun. It was a outdoor thing in the Arts District where there was, like a brunch all day and whatever. And it was supposed to go till like 7. I think we went to like 9:30 or something like that.
So you guys actually had 2 days. You had a night event and then a day that turned into a night event.
We called it the Las Vegas Weekender.
That's so good. How many DJs?
I don't know, 15 or so. Nice. Something like that, give or take. I don't have the exact number, but something like that.
That's awesome.
And it was super fun. We had like a huge group of people come in from out of town. And everyone just had a blast and kind of did their own things as well too, and some of their activities around Vegas and stuff like that. So it was super magical. So I think getting back to the original question was,
how did it go? I just wanted to learn a little bit about it.
It was great, and it just came together, and it was just a special celebration for our 25th. We needed to do something different, and that's what came together, and I couldn't have asked for a more magical time. Everyone that helped out, everyone that came down, everyone that was just a part of it in every single way made it just an amazing event.
That's awesome. Yeah, see, and I don't know that much about your, I know who Peter is. I know who a lot of people are that you've worked with, but I don't really know them. In fact, I was just saying this to you before we were on camera, that I've known you for like 20 years, but I don't really know you. That's why I was so excited to get in here and
this is awesome
and speak about it a little bit. Is this going to be an annual thing, or is this just a one-off banger for 25?
It might be. Every single person, for the most part, I think every single person that we talked to was like, oh yeah, definitely do it next year for sure. Like everyone was like, we're in. So
just watching the post, it seems like
everyone had just an amazing time. Yeah. So it was great. probably a few things we'll do different next year.
Yeah.
Things change up. Ultimately, it would be really cool to sort of see this just sort of kind of do its thing and grow as like an annual thing, where people could go hang out. And I know people were already throwing around a bunch of cool ideas for like places to stay and just all kinds of different ideas. Everyone's wheels were turning for next year. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to happen next year and hopefully be an annual thing. So
Nice. I want to tell you, it's speaking of your label, which I do want to talk more about, but I have to tell you a funny story because I went to the LTJ Bookham show last Thursday at Monkey Loft, which was outdoors, beautiful. And so I'm going to give you a couple of things before I actually tell the story that will make sense in a second. So 50 years old, haven't been in a street fight for like at least 15 years, right? I do train jujitsu regularly for about the last 8 years, and I was at Monkey Loft with a couple of my buddies, and usually when we're together, we're just super chill and safe. And this will make sense in a second. So we're standing there listening to LTJ Bookham, right? This dude walks up to me kind of aggressively, taps me on the chest. Like, you don't just tap somebody on the chest, but he taps me on the chest. And so all these things are going through my head. Is he with friends? Are we safe? Are my boys with me? I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen. And then like my mind slowed down a little bit. And I like looked at him. We made this kind of awkward eye contact. And he goes, "That's a great fucking label." And I looked down at my sweatshirt and I was wearing your Viva sweatshirt.
awesome.
And I was just like, and then what was so cool about it, besides this whole thing, thinking I was going to get in a street fight and all that, what was so cool is like, he was like 25, maybe 30 years old. And it was just so interesting because I was like, fuck, man, Jon has been doing this for more than 25 years at the label. Like, is relevance something that you think about? Does relevance just happen? How have you like stayed relevant this whole time? I know it's a big question.
No, it's a super interesting question. Yes and no is the answer. I mean, yes, because times have changed, times are changing, things are moving forward, and things are evolving. So yeah, there's definitely some things to keep up on. But no at the same time, because I think my goals for what I want to do, like as a DJ, for example, are totally different. And they're nowhere as ambitious as they used to be. Like I did a bunch of the stuff that I wanted to do many years ago, super happy. And, hey, people still like to hear me every once in a while, which is awesome. So that's great. And I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really worry about it too much. And I think part of that too is I like what I like. I'm into what I'm into and I really believe in it. So I just stick with it. Like what I do is what I do. I'm not trying to, I guess not necessarily, like follow a certain trend or anything like that. Like we're pretty much kind of in this zone of house music that we've sort of always been in. We think outside the box a little bit here and there. More so with our bookings, but less with the label, Right. And it's just kind of what we do. And like, there's a lot of people that just love it and respect it and are into it for what it is. So we just keep on doing, fighting the good fight, I guess, so to speak. But it's,
Yeah, it was always, it's just it's one of those curious things. When I see somebody like you who's got your, I said this to you earlier too, but you're one of the only people I truly know that, your whole livelihood is music, right?
It is.
There's guys like me. Day
jobs too, yep.
Yeah, there's guys like me. I have a corporate day job, but I love music. I've always been passionate about it. And that's like 90% of the people I know. And then every once in a while, there's somebody like you who like all the money that you make, how you pay your bills is one way or another having to do with the music, right? Is that fair to say?
It is, yeah. You want me to go in a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Sometimes it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt, and sometimes it's awesome. And it ebbs and it flows, but I've been doing, I guess, just music business stuff for, as long as I can remember, also one way or the other, whether it's promoting. I've worked for like different digital distribution companies for the last almost 15 years now, where, we're distributing other people's content, music publishing, consulting. I co-own a DJ promo company as well, where we do we service DJs with promos from different labels and stuff like that.
Got it.
That's kind of the nutshell version. But yeah, so over the years, it's just always evolved, whatever that is. For me, as a day job as well too.
Yeah.
So
It's fun. Like in my corporate life, right? I have to stalk execs on LinkedIn, and I have to look for blogs and all these things. And I was kind of stalking you on LinkedIn. I was like, yeah, it's everything he does, whether it's distribution, the label, actually promoting events, parties, like it is music related, which
it is. Yep.
Yeah, there's just not that many. And you may know more than me, but it doesn't seem like there's that many people in the world that are able to.
I mean, I guess I know quite a few of them because that is my day thing too. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a hustle and a grind. I mean, sometimes it's a lot of work, and sometimes the payout is more for the love of it than I mean, I get by, I survive, I do all right, but it's there's definitely a whole love element of it, because you also get to deal with just all kinds of personalities and different kind of stuff too. But I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything. So
yeah, I would if I were to put you in a bucket, don't be offended, I would call you a humble creative. Those are like some of my favorite people to get to know, are humble creatives. And I've met creatives that aren't humble, and they're awesome too, but they can be a little much sometimes. But it's the humble creatives that are a little bit subdued. You don't really know how many different pies they have their hands in, but they're always into something, and it's just so fun to hear.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess the theme I keep hearing is this love of the music. Where did that come from? Like, you remember, where did this all start?
Man, I mean, I guess dance music, electronic music has been ingrained since a very early, at least teenage years.
Okay.
I always liked music growing up. I was always into music, and I went through different phases, especially as like a preteen and an early teen and stuff, rock and the whole punk scene and stuff, which was awesome around Seattle, by the way, back in the day. And then when I first started hearing like Italo disco and like high energy and like some of this club stuff, I was just like, whoa, I was just totally blown away, and I totally got hooked. And I guess just to date myself, it was like mid 80s is when I kind of got into it and started like going to clubs and stuff. There was a club called Scoochie's back in the day, which is, if you know about it, it's pretty legendary. I
know of the legend. I missed it a little bit. By a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of came in, I guess, towards maybe the second half of that or something like that. But that's sort of where I cut my teeth going to clubs, I guess, or something like that.
Was Scoochie's in the same place that Oz ended up being in, and then it ended up being Deviate, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I just missed the Scoochie's.
It was the first iteration of all of those clubs.
I got it. I know the space. I spent many hours there, but just when it was Oz and Deviate. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And actually, kind of a fun story about that too. The building came down, I don't know how many years ago, well over 5, 6
it's gotta be
years ago, something like that, for some apartments or condos, or the things they do downtown these days,
or an Amazon building,
or something. But before it came down, there was a series of like Scoochie's reunion parties, because there's a fan group on Facebook, Children of Scoochie's, and I mean, it's huge. It's huge. There is like a mammoth following for this group, and it's super active to this day. And they did a few parties and asked me to play for them with a few of the other like DJs that were around from back in the day as well. And they were like, 800 person parties. They were like rocking. I mean, they were insane. This year they're celebrating 40 years of Scoochie's.
Wow. And
they're doing a 40th reunion party. The building's no longer there, so they found a new space that is up in Everett. And I mean, they're kind of expecting almost a similar turnout, if not even more. Like, the hype for it is like gigantic. So that's kind of a late September thing, and I'll be gracing the decks for that again. So I'm super excited. That's going to be one I'll prep for months.
Speaking of prep, like what's your plan? Like, rough plan?
It's kind of being worked out, but there's going to be a number of get-togethers with the other DJs, as well as this guy Dovin, who's the original DJ from Scoochie's, who inspired a lot of us when we were kids, and he used to have just some magical mixes that he would do with music back in the day, and he's going to be in town for it as well. So there's going to be a couple times where, he flies up early and we're doing some hangout sessions and stuff. So it's all going to kind of evolve between now and then. But I think the biggest thing with it is, you can't necessarily recreate his exact mixes and stuff like that, but creating, something that creates that same warm fuzzy vibe that brings you back, whether it's the same exact mix or not. But it's gonna involve some really cool mixes of some old tracks. So picking the tracks is going to be one of the biggest daunting tasks, because there's so much from that era that's just amazing. So there's going to be a lot of digging through music and like listening to music and trying out some mixes and seeing how some things fit together and layer over each other and stuff. So.
And are we talking like Depeche Mode and Erasure and Yaz and then some more clubby stuff? Or is it, did Scoochies get a little more like underground?
Yeah, it was across the board,
Okay.
there was definitely all of it.
Yeah.
And I think with like the other DJs that are going to be doing it with me too, everyone's sort of got their own little forte as well, and their own little understanding of stuff. And like the mixing was always my biggest thing. Like the mixes that were done there were always like the things that had the big impression on me. So that'll be one of my focuses, is the actual, like, some of the music you were talking about, as well as, hopefully I'll find maybe some like, one or two like little bit more obscure things that a few people are like, oh my God,
Right.
Like,
yeah, because I'm picturing DOA and all these, that's,
Totally.
Yeah. That would be a banging night though.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Wow. So that's in early September.
Late September.
Yeah,
end of September, I think.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. What a cool like honor to be able to play that,
Big time. I'm super grateful, like kind of wowed that they asked me. But it's awesome. I'm stoked. So yeah.
Well, you've been at it for a minute, man. So if you go back even further, I get the club thing and sort of the music influence. Was there, as a kid, were you around music all the time? Were you from one of those musical households, or did you just find it on your own?
Sort of. Kinda. I think my mom was more musical. Just playing in bands in high school and stuff like that.
What
I think
instrument?
Flute.
Okay.
Piccolo.
Perfect.
I started young. I think I was 5 when I started like taking guitar lessons. That didn't really stick too long. I think it was late. I don't even remember when it was. I took up sax at some point, and started playing that at school in like concert bands.
That's my alto. From,
awesome. I love it.
From junior high.
Very cool. But yeah, I started playing that and then getting in jazz band. And by the time I got in high school, I was definitely becoming a little bit more of like a free thinker and like kind of, venturing out into my future musical tastes and stuff like that. And
Sure.
Oh, we need a bass player for jazz band. I was like, I'll do it. They're like, all right. Well, we don't have one. I'm like, but we have a bass. I was like, can I take it home and practice? They're like, sure. So they gave me a electric bass to go practice with and take home. And
amazing.
Eventually I was digging around the band closet and I was like, hey, you have a double bass, the big stand-up basses.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I take that home and practice too? They're like, yeah, no one's using it.
Nobody wants to carry it.
Dude, I used to carry it home from school. It was ridiculous. It was it
They're
was
so
insane.
big.
And then, met up with some like-minded people at my school, which was, my high school, which was sort of that time when I started going to Scoochies and getting into electronic music and stuff.
So was Scoochie 16 and up? Was that what it was? Or 18 and up? It might have been 18, but they didn't care.
I can't remember, but I was tall and I looked a little older when I was 13, maybe, or so I could get in. And then, but yeah, so we started an electronic band at school and stuff like that, and the school had like a plethora of gear in this closet that they were just like, yeah, you guys can totally use it and do whatever. They had like keyboards and synths and drum machines and all this stuff. We were just like, what? And so we started an electronic band and went out to the bus lot where all the buses parked and they had all the parts and stuff. And we would do a concert in the multi-purpose room and drag in bus mufflers and do a total industrial concert. And it was, it was insane. It was wild. People were like, oh my God, these guys are crazy. They got to be stopped. But whatever.
Yeah, look at where you are now.
Yep.
And then, so you went to, and so actually the DJing thing was first for you after your club experience at Scoochie's. That's where you're kind of like, I want
into playing music in the bands and stuff like that all before that. And I think I was around like 16 when I actually started DJing and doing like a mobile dance show for this company that did like weddings and stuff. But then this company also got hired. This is like 1986, 1987 or whatever. Like they got a contract to do the C89 mobile dance show for high schools.
Wow.
And they're like, hey, you're into dance music. Do you want to do all the C89 mobile dance shows for the high schools? I was like, yes. So I used to do all those for like the high schools and stuff.
So like a high school would go to C89 and say, hey, we need a dance party.
Yep,
and
totally.
Then Jon Lemmon's playing the C89.
I don't think I really had any name recognition or anything like that. It was the C89 mobile dance show. That was the thing.
You were the kid that would carry all the gear and play the music and
set up, tear down, DJ, the whole 9 yards. It was
and that started wild. In the 80s when you were 16.
I think so. That's unless my timeline is off, but it was around that time because it was later 80s when I was it was like 86 to 89 that I was doing the mobile DJ stuff or something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
And then when did you migrate into, like, I would imagine, again, you were a little bit before me, but I would imagine you probably got involved in some of the break-in or the early break-in stuff going on. Did you do any of that?
I was going to school in Louisiana at the time for a lot of the break-in stuff. I would come back and DJ for a couple of the parties at various places that were semi-legal or less back in the day. For the raves, like the old Cat in the Hat parties, which were pretty legendary back then. Those were two friends of mine that did those.
No kidding.
Yep.
Okay.
And I would play for a couple of those, and then I actually did like my own parties down there too. Like I lived in Lafayette. I threw like their first rave party and did one in New Orleans as well, which was awesome.
I can imagine.
And and then I came back like mid 90s, I think is kind of when I came back. And I think shortly after that was kind of segued. I was playing at clubs here and there on like my visits back and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in the mid 90s when we came back, I think was probably around when we like started like the power plant stuff and everything. I can't remember what year power plant opened. Do you remember that? 96? 7?
Yeah, around there. I don't think probably around there, 95, between 95 and 7. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
right in that zone somewhere.
So you were born and raised in Seattle, but
Yep.
the only time you were ever really away was when you were going to school in Louisiana.
That, and then I just lived in Los Angeles for 10 years as well.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, because it always seemed like I always had assumed you were local, but so I didn't even ask. But yeah, you just had a local feel.
This is it, man, and I hope to not live anywhere else because I love this city.
Place,
I love this city.
Guys like you, like truly, have made this place more like you. There's some core people and some core movements for me that have just defined who I am for the last. I mean, I'm 50 now, but since. Before I had fake ID and I was going out to Weathered Wall, Showbox, all the raves that were happening, right? Yep. That's where I slid in, And I know you were already deeply in it by then because I'd see your name on flyers all the time.
Yeah, it was pretty. That was around the time I really like kind of got into it pretty full on and was booked quite a bit and all that kind of stuff. So
I'd see your name, I'd see Donald's name, Nasser, I'd see like there's a whole slew of different DJs.
Brian, Wesley, the whole crew.
The whole crew. Yeah, wild. Okay. So that's kind of the DJing music piece. That makes sense. And then when did you decide I want to start a label? Like what drove that?
Well, the label started in 98. So it was literally, there was just a point where I was like, what's next? Like, what is the next evolution of what I'm doing? Because there's got to be like kind of a next step for me to go in a different direction, or just keep moving forward, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And that was it. I mean, I just started thinking, there's not a house label, there's not an electronic label out of Seattle. So yeah, I've got a lot of connections. I've played all over the place, and I've got friends that make music for other labels, and I just started talking to some people, and the brainstorm just turned into Viva, and yeah.
Were you doing any production, or was it purely DJing? And then
I was not doing any production myself at that point. In fact, I've done I mean, more dabbling and stuff that's never come out than anything. But it was a little bit later that I had a few things that came out, and but yeah, those are kind of few and far between.
Right.
That was never a big part of my journey, was production. Maybe again at some point, because I do kind of miss it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you're doing everything else. You might as well start.
I
producing some
mean,
shit, too.
with all the extra time in the day, totally, exactly.
So the label thing, I mean, I understand that it was, there wasn't a house music label. There was actually probably some current still left from the whole grunge thing. I mean, we were kind of on the map, like in the, early mid 90s, late.
Yeah.
And, but was there something too that was driving you from an artist perspective, being a DJ yourself? Like, was there anything influencing that decision to start a label? Like, I want to get my friends' music out there. I want to help them grow. Any of that going on? I'm assuming so.
I mean, maybe. I think it just kind of made sense, and I think it made sense for me. I think it made sense for, at least I thought, for Seattle at the time. And I was like, I had plenty of people from all over the globe that were down and that were supportive and that were like, absolutely, yeah, we'll give you some tunes. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. And so from the time you started, let's say today, and we don't have to talk about revenue, but I'm saying, how much has your label grown, or your label activity grown from like birth to where you're at today?
Right.
And has it had some of these too?
There's a lot of those.
Right.
There's a lot of those. Yeah, that's a super interesting question. I could probably spend a lot of time on that. So I'll try to condense it a bit.
Sure.
It's a fully different climate now than it was when I started, and then it was when I was like halfway through it as well. Like, it's just totally different. Like, we used to press up vinyl back in the day, and pretty good quantities of vinyl, whereas now you can't even sell a tenth of what your initial pressing was, like, ever. It's a whole different thing. And then you have the whole digital revenue thing, and that's just it's a tricky marketplace. I mean, there's the money shifts, and it's constantly it's a constantly changing landscape. So there's really, for us, especially earlier on, I was just talking about, hey, we just kind of stick to our guns and we just do our thing, and
right.
We're not necessarily following a trend or looking for like a big hit or looking for, a big Spotify numbers or something, which is where a lot of the revenue can be, is streaming. We just kind of do our thing. So we're a super underground label. We just kind of bubble along and do our thing. So it's, doing that itself isn't really a monetary gain that I would write home about or anything like that. We do our events with Viva also, which is, that's a big part of it, but it's a bunch of like, business wise, in the whole ecosystem, everything is like a small slice of the pie, as opposed to, vinyl might have been
right
80% of it back in the day or whatever, or even earlier in the digital era, like, Beatport sales might have been 80% of it or something like that. So it's just a constantly ebbing and flowing thing. And just being the type of label that we are, and the aesthetic of the music that we put out, it's more for continuity. It's more for like doing what we're doing and like keeping that whole thing as a brand. That's kind of the wrong word I'm looking for, to like as
right.
as just a thing that's ingrained in me and us, the people that work with the label and stuff. That's just, it's a vibe,
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely think, just from what I've owned, bought digitally and on vinyl, there's an aesthetic. There's like a consistency. It's not like limited, but there's a consistency with what you guys put out on the label for sure.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
it's got kind of how would you describe it if that's not putting too much pressure
I
on you?
mean, the main sound that we do, I guess, is deep house, you know, ranging from like the little bit more soulful stuff to a little bit more underground and even like minimal. We do get a little techie, we get a little weird, we throw a down tempo thing in here and there and stuff like that. But yeah, we're just kind of on this like deeper underground vibe. And look, there's so much music out there, and there's so much great music out there, and there's so many new styles of music out there, and there's always a style that from a monetary success standpoint is going to like stand out and sort of be the one and might be what people are going for at the time.
Right.
And there's nothing right or wrong with how you're doing a label. And there's a lot of other kind of music, other subgenres of house and electronic music that I totally love.
Yep.
But I am not the expert in that. That is not my thing. I'm not going to chase it, and I'm not like chasing a buck or something like that either. Like our thing is just, no, it's more personal. This is just where we are in our zone that we just love to be. And it's awesome.
It is awesome. And that's why I think coming back to that original question around relevance, you've kind of answered me in a couple ways, which is, I think what I'm hearing too is the fact that you guys have sort of stayed the course. I mean, you're open, but you stayed the course. And a lot of times I ask these questions because I'm trying to figure it out in my own life and how this applies. But I think that relevance just kind of comes with the territory. As long as you're true to what you're trying to do, you're not trying to be something else. You're not
just trying to stay authentic to what we are.
Exactly.
Because there's other, like I said, I have a super eclectic music taste, and there's a lot of other stuff that I love. But if I really tried to put an effort into doing something that I really don't know that much about, that it's just like it's a little bit foreign to me from, your audience and stuff like that, it would come across like that. There's 0 point in me even trying it, and I see a bunch of other people that are doing a fantastic job at it too. So it's just like, so for me, it's not, I don't feel like a competition. I don't feel like a drive to measure success in any specific way other than by just staying authentic and doing what we do and like doing what we love,
Right.
That's really what at the end of the day holds the most weight and meaning for me and for Team Viva.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think you guys are unique too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the fact that you do so many events, I think that's something a little bit different too and impressive. Like what drove you to make the decision to do these events that are essentially Viva events that are happening?
Probably kind of the same thing. Well, so we'll start off with like the Monkey Loft night, for example, too. So Chad and Peter, who are my partners in Viva, while I was in LA, and I've been back for around 5 years now. So for the 10 years before that, I was kind of in LA. And at that point, I was pretty immersed into just the day job career side of like my music stuff too, and like kind of honing all those skills and working a ton as well. So I actually sort of kind of took a back seat during that time. And I know Chad and Peter they're the ones that actually started this at Monkey Loft, the weekly, which is going to celebrate 10 years this year.
So cool.
So they're the ones that actually started that, and that's why that is still just going strong. There's been, we're awesome partners. The beauty of our partnership too is each one of us has different things that seem to pop up in our lives where another person has a little more availability. So we've had this awesome, and it's worked super well, just this awesome like ebb and flow of responsibilities that have kind of shifted over the last 10 years in terms of who's running stuff. Chad fully ran the label for a few years. I was like, I just don't even have time right now. My day stuff is so demanding. He's like, oh, I'm going to take it over. I'm like, yeah, if there was someone that could take it over, it's going to be you.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. I'm like, here's the keys. And he just ran with it, brought Peter on. They've been running that night. Now it's more Peter and I that are running the night. And then, other events we've done off and on historically, but that is kind of like starting the label as my next evolution, like what's next. I think events and doing more things like maybe making Vegas an annual thing.
Right.
And although we've taken 3 years off because of the pandemic, but
Sure.
doing an annual Amsterdam party is a thing. And kind of doing some more interesting things with the events is sort of kind of my personal next interest and next push,
Yeah.
I could see the team evolving,
Yeah.
as well as this potentially evolves.
Yeah.
Because they're long days, man. I mean, there's
Yeah.
all the behind the scenes stuff is not glamorous and exciting and sexy, and
Totally.
it's just like, dude, you have no idea how long my day was today. I just want to go home and just want to take a nap.
I hate dance music.
It never gets to that point. It never gets to that point.
Never.
But yeah.
No, this is super helpful. So I'm seeing kind of the evolution of the label and how it's been a spring. So is there, as we go into more events, still doing the label stuff? I mean, in the near future, is there any big goals you guys have, either around the label or around events or all of the above?
I mean, focusing on the events, more on the label stuff. I mean, there's a couple things that might be bubbling, but too soon to even mention. I think a constant, not even necessarily forward motion, I guess it is forward motion, but kind of a constant evolution of the brand is always on the mind,
Yeah.
Like there's always well, what is next? What is our next thing? I guess when we run out of next things, it might be time to hang it up. We'll see, but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not.
I don't know, man. You've done it 25
It's
years so
I just
far.
I don't know if I could ever do it. If I could ever hang it up.
I don't think so. The guys I'm telling you, the guys and girls I talk to that are music lovers and that have even a half a foot in the business, like they can't let it go.
It's tough. It's more than a lifestyle. It's something that's just ingrained in you. You know.
It's such a part of who you are.
Yep.
No, I totally get it.
100%.
Got it. So if I'm just trying to think from the events you guys are doing. Oh, that was what I wanted to know. The Amsterdam event.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm actually heading out to Amsterdam soon. So
Okay.
I'm curious, what drove that? Was that built around something?
Yeah, so there's a big conference and festival every year called Amsterdam Dance Event that happens out there. It's in October, usually like mid to late October, like usually like the third weekend ish. And there's a big conference portion during the week too. And I've gone for the conference in the past, and I mean the events are just like, I mean, it's insane the sheer amount of like events that they have out there, and I mean everyone that's anyone is there. In my mind, it's the best music conference and festival that there is. You register for the conference, you get like a whole like list and contacts of the delegates so that you can like set up meetings. It's very conducive to like doing a ton of meetings. And then the night festival brings in like, I think it's like 100,000 people a night or something like that.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's literally, so, I mean, Amsterdam, some people know, some people don't, but it's first or second in the world for dance music. I think like Amsterdam or Berlin are kind of like the epicenters of dance music. And there's so many clubs just in the center of town. Like at any given time, you can walk to like 40 parties that are happening. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's just it's a super amazing city. It's a beautiful city. The whole vibe of the conference is awesome. It's a great place to meet up with people. It's a great place to check out some talent that you love or some new talent that you haven't heard before. And we've been doing this, I don't know how many years we've been doing it now, but the last 3 we obviously took off.
Yeah.
But maybe like 5 times before that at this little place called J.D. Williams Whiskey Bar that a friend owns, and he does like a lot of this. It's a smaller venue, but it's awesome. It's super tight, vibey.
Wow.
We usually get some of our artists that are in town from who knows where in the globe being a part of it, so it's always really fun.
It does seem like it's on the one hand you've been a pioneer in Seattle and Seattle dance music, raves, dance music, club nights, that sort of thing, plus the label. But it does seem like you're getting out and doing places out of Seattle too.
Yep.
which is probably, is it just probably a natural evolution of what you guys are doing, right?
I think that's always kind of been ingrained, and I think it's always been just an important part of all of it to me is, I mean, you know, you've got your home base, and that's always the most important thing, but like spreading out and spreading it elsewhere and bringing stuff in also has also just been a huge part of it for me. So yeah, it's super, for me, it's a global thing, community, all that.
Yeah. How do you feel? I mean, in general, you watched the Seattle scene for a long time. Like, how do you feel do you feel like it's evolving? I mean, it's constantly evolving, right? But like, just general thoughts off the top where we're at today.
I mean, like 10 years ago or something like that, like having multiple club nights with, you know, different genres of whatever, house, techno, trance, all of the stuff. Like, you know, if you had more than like 2 things going on, like one of them was going to suck back in the day, you know, it'd be like one of them would be awesome. The other one just wouldn't. And now it's great because the scene is big enough to be sustainable and have like multiple things going on and have multiple people doing things that might have like a slightly different audience and a slightly different draw, but it's still at its core kind of the same thing. So it's been super cool and super fun just to watch this town sort of, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's been cool to see it kind of grow out of just a live music town mentality. Especially from an outsider's perspective, you know?
Yeah.
But even from the locals, just seeing the electronic stuff grow has been really cool to watch.
Yeah. It's been, and back to my original story about wearing your Viva sweatshirt, like just seeing, you know, the age ranges. It does seem like even like LTJ Bookham, for instance, there was 20-year-olds, there was like 65, 70-year-olds there. Like it was. I
was actually there for maybe like 20 minutes, but
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a super mixed crowd.
Yeah,
which I love. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love to see that too, and I love to see new folks coming into an old community and kind of forcing the community to evolve, to embrace that, and then sort of forcing change, but in a good way. So I like to see how it's grown too. It's been fun to watch, but I do think it is cool that you guys are doing stuff. You're not just so. I find sometimes when people are too focused on the city they're from, there's a little bit of this famine mentality because they're like, oh my God, this guy's got this night and these guys have this venue, and
it used to be more like that. I think it definitely used to be more like that.
So you think it's improving though?
Yeah,
that's good.
I mean, I think it's an amazing thing when you don't have to worry so much about, you know, 3 or 4 sometimes events happening in a night and yours sucking or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, that's awesome. It also gives people options, which I think is super healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I think having people have options and choices of their venue and their music style and stuff like that is just, I mean, it's a fantastic thing. I'm all for it 100%. So.
Yep. No, it's been that. I keep going back and forth because I wonder if I'm just paying more attention now or if I'm actually noticing this thing. And the more I talk to people like you, the more I'm starting to realize there is some evolution happening, like kind of before our eyes right
constantly
now, in a positive way. And that's really cool. But then there's also like, so I had Sherman Crawford in here a couple weeks or last week, whatever. And he played a vinyl set, and people just bug out when people can play vinyl sets because there's so many kids now that have never even touched a 1200, right? I know that's not you, right? But it's interesting to see. And now there's like almost a refreshed interest in learning how to play vinyl and buying vinyl again. And I don't know if you guys are pressing more vinyl now than you were like 2 years ago, or if you're even playing in that game anymore.
Not as much. We did a vinyl release right before the pandemic. And we have one more that's sort of just kind of on the back burner for the time being. And yeah, we'll probably do some stuff here and there, but it's definitely, I mean, it's, once again, that's like a game that I used to know how to play that I just don't anymore.
Yeah.
It can totally be done, but the whole like distribution networks, like not even the same network anymore. It's a whole different way you go about it. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. No, I
to be continued.
To be continued. Well, it just did when you did your vinyl release, did it sell pretty well? I know it's pre-pandemic, but
it did okay. I mean, it was actually it had a good start, and then the pandemic,
right?
It literally just like stopped it, halted it.
Yeah.
I mean, and now we've been taking, the vinyl back to the gigs and stuff like that for like our merch booth and stuff. And yeah, it's been selling.
Yeah.
A little bit online again too.
I mean, is there any, I know you guys have some stuff upcoming, right?
Yeah, we got a ton of stuff coming up. Like event wise or music wise or
both.
whatever.
That's what I want to. I want to make sure I give you enough airtime because I know you have some releases coming up. You have some events.
I mean,
coming up.
it's just constant. Like there's always new stuff being planned and worked on. We have a great event coming up in June, or this party at Monkey Loft.
Yep.
We're bringing David Harness and Homero Espinoza up from Molten Music from San Francisco. We've got Ian Pooley coming in July.
It's one of my favorites.
And we got our 12-hour party at Monkey Loft in August. We're still finalizing a couple details on that. Amsterdam in October. And, I mean, release-wise, we got a bunch of stuff coming up. Got a new Andrew Macari coming up. I've got, what is coming up after that? Let me think here. My goodness, what is coming up after that?
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, we've got a bunch of releases on deck right now, so we're kind of figuring out the release schedule and all that. We did this one release from Jason Merle a couple months ago. Johnny Fiasco did a remix of it. That's going to be coming out in probably July. Oh, well, okay, yeah, for the Homero Espinoza and David Harness show, there's a release coming out by them. By Homero with a David Harness remix for that, and a few new artists and a few recurring artists coming up after that too.
Very
but
cool.
Bunch of stuff in the pipeline for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you guys have on deck. Yeah, I'm always checking you guys out, seeing what's going on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I mean, on that, part of this is I love to have folks in, talk to them, get to know them a little bit, but also let you loose on the decks. No pressure. You bring whatever you want, whether it's vinyl, USB, whatever you want to play. There's no, it's like, what does John want to play on a Wednesday night? And
accordion.
I thought you were going to bring the piccolo.
No, that would accordion all night long.
I really hate accordion most of the time in dance music. I struggle with that one.
Oh, it's not even just accordion. I'm just going to play accordion for the next hour.
That'll be fun to edit. I like that. So you're going to play accordion. So when I let you loose back on the decks and you put the accordion to the side and you pull out whatever you're going to pull out.
We'll set the accordion aside for the side. We're not tonight. Another time.
I'll mic you up. You bring it in.
All right. Next time.
Maybe run some loops, some hooks.
Let me learn how to play it first, and then I'll bring it in.
That would have been something if you would have brought an accordion. Anything you want to say about what you're going to mix? Any themes, ideas, thoughts?
No, I mean, we're just going to kind of roll with it and see what happens. Yeah. I think I'm definitely going to bust out a few of the tracks that we played, that Johnny and I played in Vegas. And then just some, that's all I know so far. Other than that, we're gonna see where it starts and where it ends, and see if we can catch a little groove.
Anything else before we put you behind the decks?
I don't think so. I mean, thanks so much for having me. This has been awesome. It's been like really cool just to hang out and chat and talk about a bunch of stuff. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you coming through, taking the time. I appreciate the toenail paint job. If anybody, just make sure you notice that. I actually feel like I need to up my game now. As we were talking about, I don't like wearing shoes.
Got to get sparkles, man.
Yeah.
Get the sparkles
I think I
going.
might do that. Well, thanks, John. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you once again. Appreciate it.
Yeah.